Okay,
Not far from it.
this should be fun and interesting. What we're going to do is, let's see, let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so what we're going to do is work directly onto the canvas. Okay, so let's start boldly with Payne's Gray. And what we're going to do is we're going to block it in. Just block it in. What would Frazetta do, you know? Just block it in. Block it in. We're not really painting. We're drawing, actually. Right? There we go. Ooh, mama. Gotta be thick and bold with the lines. Thick and bold. Bold, I say. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Am I blocking the view? I don't know. I'm gonna sit down because probably there's no harm in doing so. Alright, so this is going to be shunk and plunk. And shunk and plunk. And blunk and blunk. Yep. And a little bit of a dark region there. That feels pretty good. Gotta keep it loose. Keep it fast. Keep it fun. Alright, now here I'm not going to try to block in the details at all of, like, because there's a lot of wrinkles, but I'm not going to draw the wrinkles. I'm going to just get the basic feeling of it in there and let it build up slowly. Okay. Now, what I'm doing right now, though, I must say, is going to be probably turn out to be a valuable technique later, because what I'm doing is I'm getting a feel for how the paint wants to sort of interact with the canvas. And again, I'm just literally taking paint straight out of the tube. So I'm singing because I find that when I keep my mind occupied with well, like singing or jabbering, yakking, it's like it almost puts a musical kind of cast on the whole experience, which makes sense because art is like music, actually. Okay, so what I'm seeing here for sure is there's a lot of kind of blues and orangey, brownish grays all over the place in here. So, and this whole region down here is somewhat darker. So, again, just want to keep it super loose, super soft, fluid, super chillax. Boom, 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 boom. Because remember, you can always go back later and paint over it. You know? If you screw it up, who cares? Who cares, I say? Let's let the process be fun. Right? This, I must say, is something that AI can't do yet. Now, technically could it? Yeah, it probably could. I mean, you could 3D print a painting, but actually just have it be flat, even though it's technically 3D, or something like that. Of course, that wouldn't require AI. That would just require a little bit of technology. Boom. Just want to get the feel of this part. Not bad. Okay, so now, where is my top? All right, I'm gonna put the top on this. Okay, so this is going to be the tricky part. How do I want to do this? Well, I mean, yellow ochre, I guess. Let's do yellow ochre. Now, one of the objectives here was quite specifically to not put any paint on a palette or anything like that. Use one brush, just one brush for the whole thing. And just let it unfold on the canvas the way it's gonna unfold, you know? So some of this I'll be working some white into, which will be titanium white, because that's really the only white I have. See right there? See how the Payne's gray is sneaking through more than I expected? So I'm gonna just work with that. That's okay. See that sort of wispy, loose, painterly kind of thing that's happening? That's what I want. I don't want to get away from that. Now in this region, well, in here things are getting a little more pink. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get the yellow ochre blocked in kinda sorta wherever I think I'm gonna need it. And then I'll have to come back in with probably a little bit of, golly, which color would it be? The red, what is it, cadmium? Is it cadmium red or? Yeah, cadmium red hue. That'll work. We'll definitely need that in the, obviously in the mouth and gums, you know, that kind of thing. So one aspect of this that I've really never done before is, as I say, just literally allowing all the color to just be on the canvas, and we'll just see what happens with it, you know. Okay, so I'm going to assume I can probably have a little bit of it in here. And there's definitely right here in the fur, there's a good bit. So my suspicion is what's going to happen is there's going to become a point where it's going to want to start to get muddy, probably. So I expect that. That's not going to be a shock or a problem. It's just something I'm kind of looking out for. If it gets all too smooth and blended, it's going to not be working quite so well. So definitely want quite a bit of the yellow ochre over here. Okay. Now this part's going to be probably, well, I guess I was going to say titanium white, but I think I'm actually going to just dive in with the cadmium red hue. So this should be interesting. I need very little of it, I suspect. Because whatever I do, I'm going to have to go back in with some of the white and bring up the highlights and stuff. So I'm just basically giving myself a bit of a base. And obviously we can go in and paint the teeth, but what I want to try to do, I think, is stay out of the way of the teeth and let the I'm trying to keep the colors separated at this point, basically. Okay, that's not too bad. We're definitely going to need quite a lot more of the Payne's gray in this region. That's got to be darkened quite a bit, but up here we're getting into basically plain old flesh tone. And as I said, I'm going to want to mix some in here, giving myself room to, basically I want to still see the contrast of the colors, I guess you'd say, but yet knowing that once I start working the white into it, it's going to, all these actual colors are going to change quite a bit. And that's okay. With oils, you can kind of do that. So, okay, that's a little strong. Got a little bit more in my brush than I probably strictly should have. So the reason this part's tricky-ish is because I have to get some tone on the canvas, which I'm going to work back into later with the white. But I have to use my imagination because the tonality on the canvas is, in some places, kind of a lot darker than I know it's going to wind up being. But the white won't do its job well if the red's not there. So we got to put the red in. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad. Okay, I'm missing some blue though. And I'm thinking, what is that sky blue? It's kind of an aqua kind of blue. Cerulean? Yeah, cerulean blue. So this should be interesting. This is going to be a challenge. And then I think before I get in there with the white, what I think I'm going to do is probably work back into, okay, the cerulean blue feels like it's dried out a bit. That's not good. And plus, I mean, it must be said that cerulean blue is a very thick pigment, thicker than most. So what I'm trying to do now is just get the general tone of the region, the value. So again, so there's some pigment on the canvas to work with, basically. What I was going to say is I think once I get the blue laid in there and kind of have it on the canvas, I'm going to probably hit the Payne's Gray again before I get too busy with the white. Okay, let's leave that such as it is. And probably, rather than going back in with Payne's Gray, I'm actually going to go ahead and go to black, which is going to be darker. Fair share. Yeah, just a black. Not too much. Just enough to take the areas that currently simply are not dark enough or there's pigment missing and get them blocked in a little better. Like this right here definitely needs to be a more aggressive black. Same thing here. Right under the teeth is pretty dark.
There's lots of crab apples coming in.
Ooh, nice.
So you might want to go collect some.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a bit bitter, but, or I should say tart, not really bitter. Not bad.
Mm-hmm. Crab apples growing in the neighborhood. Growing in the neighborhood. Okay. Yeah, it's just really important to keep this loose. Keep it loose, baby. Alright, yeah, it's going to be like that. This is going to actually be fairly crisp and sharp across that top there. And then this is going to blend in a bit. Okay. Now we can strengthen this shadow area a bit. There we go. There we go. And this can be bumped out a bit. Let the texture of the canvas do a little bit of the work for me through here. Okay, and then okay. Now I'm going to go back to Payne's Gray actually, because what I can see is that a fair amount of the what do I want to say, the sort of bluish gray that I see can probably be handled in large part by letting Payne's Gray work with the underlying canvas, which of course is sort of blocked in with a sort of a bluish gray color. That was not intentional for this painting. It was just a matter of the canvas that I had laying around. Just happened to have that. It was covered with that color, so I'm like, okay, let's use that. Okay, that feels pretty good. This thing, he's got a kind of a real distinct shape there. But again, I'm really working to keep this super loose. And through here, we're gonna need a little bit of the paint, or the yellow ochre and the red to come through. Okay, time to get busy with some white, and then that's probably gonna be it for this session. Okay, let's just try. So I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of white out here, and boom, start laying it in. Now, wherever I put this, it's going to get kind of washed out and mixed in with all the other color immediately. And so I emphasize again, that's no big deal. That's intentional. We expected that. Not a problem. Not a problem. What would Bob Ross do? Okay, and I'm really going to try to discipline myself to actually do what is hard to do as an unaccomplished artist like me, which is don't go too far, you know? Don't go too far. If it's kind of feeling good texturally, let it go. Let it be. Okay? Here we go. 1. Okay, and 2. Okay, that's a little strong. That's okay. If I make it a little too strong, then we'll have it be a little stronger then. We're not going to nitpick it. We're not going to nitpick. Okay, so one thing I can do in this case is if I do have a little too much white on my brush, I can always use that here in the teeth area, because the teeth are pretty, frankly, bright white. And I'm squinting so that I don't want to get too detailed with this. I want to keep it very loose and kind of blurry, if you will. Okay, because all we're trying to do is model the way the light falls over the guy. Or girl, I guess. I don't know if this ape is male or female, frankly. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's see if we can get that nose modeled in there. Okay, so what we see is something like that. Boom, boom, and boom. And then, right there, yes. The light's coming from up here, is what it looks like to me, so. Okay, and we're seeing this massive highlight right there that I seem to keep missing. I'm trying to get it, and I'm not quite getting it in there. Okay, okay, that feels good. What about this? Let the white mix with the red a bit. Yes. Yeah, keep it loose, keep it fluid, and if it feels like it's starting to fall apart, which could happen, it can happen. I'm not going to sweat it if it does. So the light is from up here, and he's definitely got some hair that's right around this whole edge that's really standing out with a really strong highlight. So I'm going to run with that, and then this kind of comes in like that, and in like that, and in like that. Right? Okay. This tooth is really bright. Okay, good enough, good enough. And now, boom. Okay, nice, nice, nice. No problem there, no problem. Okay, this part feels like it wants a little more red worked into it. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that here today. I might have to come back for that in another layer. So what I'm going to do is try to get a little bit of these. They're not really wrinkles because they are covered with fur. I mean, they probably are wrinkles, but you know, there's fur everywhere. I don't want to lose the, I don't know, let's say the excitement of the picture, because it's an energetic picture. It's a very energetic pose that this guy is putting on display for us. And can we get that and that? Okay. I don't think this is going to work on this pass. There's some wrinkles in here that if I try to do them, they're just going to, it's going to just start smearing together. So we don't want that. So let's just work a little bit of the pink in there, and then this part is not modeled well. We're not feeling the roundness of it, and I'm not getting enough paint on my brush to make it happen. So I'm squeezing out some more of the titanium white. There we go, there we go. Okay, okay, yes, that's better. Okay, and then this comes right down into there. And that tooth is really distinct. Boom, and boom. Okay, and then he's got a little bit of a highlight there. And now I think the last thing I'm going to do today is just get some of this modeling of the fur that comes out this way. The actual texture on this guy is quite a good bit more fine-grained than what I'm painting here. Definitely. This entire region through here needs to be kind of aggressively lightened. Okay, that's pretty good. That's feeling pretty good. And then he's got sort of this tuft that comes up like that. And you see a little bit on the back, but I'm trying to let the mid-tone of the canvas kind of, no, I don't want to say carry the day, but kind of. Okay, so my hope here, and it is a hope, it may not work, but is that if I keep this sort of coarse enough, not too fine-grained, it's the dynamics of the color are going to sort of carry the day, not the detail. I don't want the detail to have to carry the day on this painting. I want the boldness of the contrast to be what makes the difference, I guess, is probably the best way to explain it. Why? Just because I want to, actually. That's really the only reason. Okay, so this needs to be like, pull right around there. Okay, so again, through here we're going to have to come in with some more details later, but I think that's going to be in another session. Very interesting and beautiful animal, I must say. Okay, let's take a look at that and see what is and isn't working. This part's not working so well because this region isn't big and bold enough. And that's okay. What we'll do is we're going to work this, let this flatten out a bit because I do kind of want to blend the hues here, through here, with the mindset that I'm going to be going back in like right now, and making this bit bolder. So I'm going to have to use quite a little glop here. Yep, quite a glop. Now that feels good. That feels good. Let's take that up there and then let this catch some more of the highlight. Boom. Okay. I haven't gotten my paints out in a while. I think my white is getting, it may have dried a bit. So, that's okay. You gotta work with what you have to work with, you know? Boom. Okay. Not bad. Now this whole region needs to come out further. And yeah, I have to say, I see kind of an error in my drawing, unfortunately. But it's not enough to wreck the painting or anything, but it's definitely something I want to notice and pay attention to and fix later. So this whole section is not what I was referring to a moment ago, but basically this I want to get some of that, I want to pick up some of that red. And some of that yellow ochre. Yeah, this is bugging me. The paint is not wanting to come out of the tube very well. Okay. Get ready. Boom, boom, and yes, there we go. Just want to feel it. I don't want to paint it. I want to feel it. Okay, that's it for now. That is it for now. Maybe with one tiny exception. I'm going to grab a little bit of this yellow ochre and work a bit of that in here, the yellow. But again, I don't want to go too far, so I'm going to say that's good for today, I'd say. That gets us started. Okie dokie.